Okay. All right. Jonny Torres with you again. I appreciate you for watching here. Sorry it's been a bumpy night so far, but hopefully we can knock out tonight's show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Don't forget you can catch the audio version of our podcast over on Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey. And of course, no shortages of things to talk about tonight. And so we're going to go ahead and get into tonight's topics. First, the Florida Senate shoots first. They are kind of leading the way in the Florida legislature in regards to a vaccine mandate ban. Okay. This, of course, going to affect a lot of people's businesses, employment, and whatnot. And so this could be a very huge bill. Some people are saying that it's political theater, but I can assure you this is not. And it's also not going to be as easy as people expect, even with the Republican majority in the office. We'll talk about why. Bannon versus Congress. Steve Bannon, former advisor to President Trump, has finally surrendered himself to federal authorities in regards to his subpoena to testify before Congress starting January 6th. We'll talk about the fallout from that. FBI also coincidentally right around the same time attacking journalism. They have raided the home of journalist James O'Keefe and his organization Project Veritas, which again, a lot of people feel very strongly about one way or the other. And so we'll talk about what does that mean for journalism at large and for independent outlets like his. And then Austria locks down freedom. Okay. Austria implementing a lockdown, but not just any lockdown, a lockdown specifically aimed at targeting those who have not been vaccinated. So now we're starting to segregate the community between vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And so we'll break that down and why it could be coming to an America near you. All right, joining me at the big table, as always, we've got our regular cast of characters. Anibal, David, Cabrera, and Joe Wicker. What's up, fellas?
I'm here under duress.
You look like it.
I'm here under duress.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Pull me out of the gym.
Oh, sorry about that.
Really?
Get here. I was on my way.
We interrupted your gains.
Allegedly.
We interrupted those gains.
Well, it's not the gains. I'm trying to go for the losses. I'm working on losses, not gains.
Oh my gosh. And how's that working out so far?
It's working.
Okay. Good.
Feels good. Actually, it feels good to get back in the gym,
I think all of us need to just start doing the show from the gym. That way we can actually all make it to the gym.
I don't know what any of you are talking about right now.
Well, after a third set, I actually can't communicate very well.
So Anibal, a gym is where people run for fun. Yeah.
I don't understand.
I haven't been to one in a long time, but that's the rumors they still exist.
You see people walking into them. I don't know what happens.
What's interesting is that the gym I go to actually closed due to COVID,
Yeah.
And it was a national franchise brand, and then it reopened back up as its own deal. So
okay,
I don't know the owners, but I'm assuming that maybe it worked out for them. They got out from under the franchise, I guess, and then just rebranded. But because they said that the franchise went bankrupt. I don't know if the kids working there actually understand what that means.
Sure.
They said it closed and went bankrupt, and I was like, yeah, I don't think it's bankrupt completely. But
so same owners, but just a different name.
Yeah, which tells me that basically they just got out from under the franchise. So the franchisor probably couldn't support them through all that. I mean, they might have told them, hey, if you got to close, you got to close. What are you going to do?
Well, nationally, I mean, I think
one of those industries that just got killed.
I think there's still parts of the country where you cannot go to the gym.
I mean, in Florida, we never truly locked down, but even in Florida, I think places like gyms and salons, I mean, they just got crushed.
Yeah.
Did that guy in New Jersey ever survive that? Remember the guy in New Jersey?
I think he did, but I think there's all kinds of lawsuits and some.
I mean, he was fighting the good fight. Remember that?
Yeah. Gyms in Houston were fighting.
No, he was fighting the good. That guy in New Jersey, man, he was really fighting the good fight, and he was disobeying, and it was like, I'm disobeying, and like they came back with like the police, and it's like, okay, we're here to arrest you. And
and then what's crazy too is that since things started to reopen. Not only because things started to reopen, increased competition, Peloton is crashing.
Oh yeah.
As a company, I mean, they saw huge, ridiculous growth during COVID.
Oh yeah.
Because all these people who couldn't go to the gym were buying the Peloton machines.
Oh.
In the meantime, amazingly enough, their competitors really scale up and catch up.
But now they're just crashing.
Oh yeah. A lot of people getting rid of their machines, not renewing subscriptions. Their sales are down.
Yeah, it's a sales force. It's a streaming service. It really is a lot of things. Like you don't even have to have a machine to be able to go on the service.
Yeah, right.
So evidently they do very good yoga.
I think a bunch of people in finance had to make a killing. Like guys that are on Wall Street that get to sit around and think about these things all day. Like I've thought about that. Like I've been trying to run my business and I just haven't had time to sit around and think about like what's going to succeed because of COVID and what's going to die because of COVID. But there's been some opportunities for people to invest in things and make some real money over this because it's unprecedented.
Well, NordicTrack, which has been around for ages,
like
they've
Zoom,
now
like Zoom, right?
Yeah. Well, but NordicTrack, has now come out with their own line of smart technology fitness equipment.
Okay.
But they've also got like Carly Lloyd from the women's national team. They've got Michael Phelps. They've got. I mean, they.
I mean, really are you saying they never had those things before? Like, I mean, NordicTrack's been around for a long time. I mean, right?
I don't think they needed the level of celebrity endorsements that they've now had to spend money on to put Peloton out of business, basically to compete against Peloton.
I don't think Peloton is going to go out of business. I just don't think that. I think it got very hyped very quickly. It's going to retract a bunch.
Think about services like when everybody was forced to go home. I don't think it took much for people on Wall Street to realize, well, companies like Zoom and those types of platforms have to gain traction. Like they have to, and of course, Zoom blew up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the opportunity was.
So and those who didn't work out also blew up. So
right. Well, I guess so, yeah.
Shots fired.
Well, remember there was like a lot of, but the whole video conferencing thing, it was kind of a novelty. I mean, I guess maybe if you work in Silicon Valley, it was a luxury.
It was like like if you had to, you kind of do this throughout the country and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you wanted to have a quick meeting for some reason, but like think about it, even in the corporate world,
most people were still doing conference calls.
Yeah, I was going to say in the corporate world, they've had the money to invest in like
the
video conferencing. Yeah, I mean, it's not that expensive. They can do it, but they just whatever.
And I remember going to a lot of corporate offices where they had all of this video conferencing equipment, but they
didn't use it.
Never used it.
No, because they would just jump on because dialing the phone and then just dialing in was just easier.
Yeah,
and no one felt like they needed to see anybody.
But you had to have the technology there just in case. So like a lot of corporate offices and even non-corporate offices still have the technology, just no one was using it.
But it is kind of interesting if you think about it. I think the reason why the reason why no one ever I know what you're talking about. They have the machine there, they have the video machine, they've got it all,
the camera, the webcam,
but all they're doing is calling in. And I think the reason why that is because most of those meetings were just smaller groups of people meeting,
right?
So they would meet over a conference call. Now I think people want to see you.
Sure.
They want to, like, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
like
they want to know you're engaged.
Yeah, they want to see you there, and so everybody's like, dressed from the waist up. And
right. Well, and you're having certain companies. I know schools, they'll mandate that you have your camera on the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
To
validate that you're there.
Yeah.
Doing the work.
Yeah. Right. And that's
dude,
and it's getting people in trouble
because kids can scam. Kids can scam some teachers quick.
I mean,
last year it was haywire.
Yeah.
The Wild West.
Yeah. Kids would straight up scam you.
You had kids posting up screenshots of themselves. So it looked like they were there, but
kids
really
would put another monitor there with them just moving around, like every now and then, just moving around, and they would post. They could post that.
That gives me a warm sensation that there's hope for the future generation.
There's like mouse moving devices you can get.
Sure.
That just move the mouse a little bit so the computer.
Oh my god!
Don't put it past some kids to figure out of homework now. I mean, they're going to get out of some work.
You give Americans
that's human nature. Human nature kicks in, man.
We take it in full advantage in our society here.
All right, what are we talking about tonight?
All right. So Florida Senate shoots first. Florida. So we're talking about the fact that the Florida Senate has gone into action after DeSantis has basically told them that, hey, we need to get this vaccine mandate ban done. There's no waiting for regular. Let's get it done. Let's knock this out. It's obviously, I think, a huge agenda priority for him. This would continue to put him in the spotlight nationally as a governor who's willing to kind of take a very aggressive and different approach to how to handle this coronavirus and all the different elements that problems it has created. And so as we are looking at the Senate so far, it seems like they've taken the lead. Our very own Senator Danny Burgess here from the Tampa Bay area, also kind of one of the main proponents of the bill, one of the main advocates for the bill. Of course, this thing gets a little complicated, as Joe and I and we've all discussed before. It's going to vary from industry to industry as to how much of a ban you can actually put in place due to it being tied to federal dollars, and that's probably going to cause all kinds of lawsuits. But in general, they're kind of framing this as a way to save jobs. They're framing this as a way to prevent, especially, your Amazons and your big kind of corporate multinational companies from, getting rid of a lot of people and using this as an excuse to get rid of a lot of people. I'm hearing, though, that there is going to be some pushback, and that's a little surprising, especially given how much control we have over the majority, over in the state legislature.
Well, where you're seeing the fight is in the committee hearings, and for it to move out of committee. So according to right now, we have a few bills in the House and in the Senate, Florida Senate, with the House Committee, Commerce Committee, voting on HB 1B and HB 3B on their sides when it comes to public records and allowing that. And the Judicial Committee voted 7-3 to approve our own senator here, Senator Burgess, bill SB 2B. So it's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of work that's being done, and I think they'll hodgepodge it together to put it all together. However, I don't disagree with some of the objections that are coming down the pike, but I will say that it just depends on how strong the governor is really going to manhandle this, and I think that's what he wants
take
something on his desk.
Yeah, take a lot of smoothing over on his behalf. He's going to have to have some one-on-ones with some of these legislators. Obviously, Democrats are going to push back, just for the political theater of it all. But again, when you're talking about choosing between allowing someone to give them the freedom of choosing whether or not to get a vaccine or causing them to lose their job, I mean, what side of the argument do you want to be on? And especially in this economy, do you really want to be on the side of someone losing their job over a personal choice?
Yeah, but will this even pass muster when it comes to the courts? I don't know if it will.
I think it will. I think look at what's happening federally with OSHA. And
they're getting demolished right now.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a huge window of opportunity for the state legislature to come back and say, see, this is unconstitutional.
I think the reason why the OSHA is getting so much pushback is because people are realizing that this isn't the Spanish flu. This isn't the polio. This is a virus. It's a novel virus. It's causing a lot of havoc, but the death rate is nowhere near compared to where the last time there were mandates like this that were necessary around the country.
Well, what's going to be interesting is trying to think on the positive side of all this COVID mess is, good things do come out of hard times, and biblically speaking, God can use things for good for those who believe him. So, but also for those who love him. But one of the things that I think could come out of this is states reasserting their authority as free and independent states who created this republic, right?
Yeah.
So what you see is when the governor came out and said, we're leaving OSHA, I was like, we can leave OSHA?
I had no idea.
I was like, okay. I mean, okay, they're going to set up their own state agency. Apparently, I want to run it, guys. If anybody's listening, I want to run it because I'll go in, as with common sense as a business owner. But no, I mean, apparently we're setting up an agency, and they're going to focus on safety at and it's going to be run by the state, and then that way we don't need the feds to come in to our businesses. And think about that. That's the state saying, hey, we can manage ourselves here. We can manage commerce, and the feds really can't regulate interstate commerce like that. I mean, they can't there's only so much that they can do. So, I think you're seeing local governments and state governments certainly trying to really reassert their authority as free and independent.
Well, we talked about this last week because it kind of puts you in a conservative conundrum. Because while you are trying to minimize the impact of a bureaucratic federal agency, you're now also growing the size of government at the state level.
Well, okay.
Yep. And so
you could argue that it should offset. It should offset and it should be cheaper.
It cancels itself out. Yeah.
It should.
It does.
Allegedly.
Right.
It should.
Right.
It should. I mean,
but you're also putting the financial burden back on the state, in regards to operating that agency.
Yeah, but the state would never have to go to this position if they didn't feel the federal government was overreaching.
Now, look,
position.
The positive to all this, I think, is as you look at it, I think this would be a huge chip at states getting away from under the federal government, because again, and this is where I would love to have Dr. Gonzalez here on the show, because it used to be that the states basically told the federal government what to do.
Yeah.
And then, the tables.
Oh, you're talking about the former representative.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, who's an amazing constitutional scholar.
Yeah.
Has written a couple books.
Medical doctor and then goes back to law school.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'll go to law school just,
just for the heck of it.
So much pain.
Just to run for office.
So much pain.
But point being
I know what
that,
you're saying, though. Yeah.
When we talk about, even going back as when Rick Perry was running for the first time he ran for president, getting rid of the Department of Energy, getting rid of the Department of Education. I think if
don't
Governor
forget the third
DeSantis,
department that he forgot about, that he forgot which one it was.
Do we remember what it was?
No, he never. Did he ever come out and say what he was going to say?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure there was one, but and that cost him obviously his campaign. But point being is that I think this would really open up a window of opportunity for other red-leaning states to be like, okay, where else can we get rid of federal government?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. Is that it becomes contagious? But I think you were alluding to something about being for small government, limited government. And one of the things that cities and counties and the Democrats like to bring up is they like to throw the limited government principle in the Republicans' face when it comes to things that they want to do locally. So Hillsborough County will want to pass, let's say, a mask mandate or something, right? And then the state will say no, and then the Democrats in the local government, as if they support limited government, which they don't.
No.
They'll say to Republicans, but don't you support limited government? It's like, well, hold on, time out. If you pick an issue like, say, the pruning of trees, I'm just going to pick an issue like something environmental, right? Like trees, how you can cut down trees. If you go ask a leftist, they will tell you, oh no, you shouldn't be able to touch anything. And then if you said, well, what about my backyard? Like, could I do it? Like maybe in your city, you can't do it, but like I should be able to do it in my city, right? They'll say, no. And they will want to pass that regulation nationwide.
Mm-hmm. Like many cities do.
Yeah.
They have tree ordinances.
Yeah. Any issue that they have, they think it's one size fits all and it should apply to everyone, that no one should be able to do anything when it comes to that, so they actually don't believe in local control.
No, not at all.
They don't believe in it at all. They just don't.
They don't believe in individual control.
That's right. They don't believe in individualism, responsibility.
They want the state to mandate in certain behaviors.
That's right.
That they want everyone else to follow.
And so what I like about Republican-led states is that when they mandate something statewide, the irony is that oftentimes let me back up. In a legislative way, what they do is they preempt is what they call it, right? So like gun laws, they preempt the local counties. So that way there's not 67 different gun laws and you can't even travel around the state without becoming a felon accidentally, right? So they preempt that law so that it makes sense statewide. The liberals want to, they like preemption as long as it's their issue. Right. But what you find in Republican-led states is that when the state preempts something and takes it up to the state level and says this is going to be the way it is statewide, what it usually is their effort to push control back down to the individual. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're trying to mandate things onto counties and cities. What they're actually attempting to do is give that decision-making authority back to the lowest level, which is the individual citizen, where most decisions belong anyway.
Again, at the end of the day, I still don't see how normal citizens don't realize that Republicans are doing their best to give them back the options and the freedom of choice when it comes to what they can and cannot do. So
exactly,
so Democrats are getting mad at us for getting mad at the Democrats for having mandates, and they're like, well, you're creating more government because you want to get rid of mandates. I'm like, we wouldn't even be in this position if the president would have just stuck by his guns and not done a mandate, because he said he wasn't going to do one a year ago. And then what happens? He makes one.
Think about it. Who actually likes, just red-blooded American, who likes a mandate of anything? Unless you already agree with it. And then let's be honest, if you already agree with it, it's not a mandate because you were going to do that anyway. So you're okay with a mandate when it's really your choice.
Yeah.
I mean, a person, there were people, most of them seniors, right, who were just waiting, right? We were just waiting for the vaccine to come out so that senior citizens who were the most vulnerable to COVID and disease could get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Okay. That was there. You didn't have to mandate it for them.
Right.
They were ready to they'd already made that decision in their mind, and they were just waiting for it to come out. Then likewise, you had people that they probably hadn't actually given it that much thought, but initially they were probably like, yeah, I'll just wait and, see how everything works out or whatever.
Yep.
Those people had already made their decision. So a mandate's really only a mandate on those people that weren't going to do it in the first place.
Right.
So when people act like they're for mandates, no, you're not. You're not for mandates. You're only for mandates when it's on the making someone else do something that you want them to
on
do.
The things that it's not across the board.
Right.
And so looking here at the article from floridapolitics.com, shout out to Peter Schorsch, it says Democrats like Senator Audrey Gibson criticized the bill as unnecessary, arguing it strips local control and is a politically motivated piece of legislation. Again, I mean,
what?
Yeah, politically motivated in the sense that we're trying to stop the Biden administration from infringing on the Florida's economy.
Yeah.
The last thing now this is the kicker. When it comes to the quote, the last thing we want to see is another takeover of a virus we can control.
Right.
Which again, obviously we've learned
the deer are infected now.
No,
the deer are infected. It's
so weird.
That's
weird.
That train left the station a long time ago, and the government knows it.
And the fact that they think that they can still control this thing.
Yeah.
That they have any control over this thing.
Because people on the left believe as their thought process in virtually all things is that if we just had a better system, or if we just had a better law or better controls, then all of society's ills would go away. Whereas conservatives, they approach their worldview as essentially, sometimes there's right and wrong answers, right, on the issues of moral things, and sometimes there's right and wrong. But in general, with most of society's ills, there's just trade-offs. I mean, you make the best decisions you can, but there's trade-offs. And we already know, and the scientific community knows this, and the government knows that COVID, unfortunately, is not going away the way people are thinking it's going to. We did the lockdowns because we thought that we could kill it off, right? We thought that by locking everybody down, the virus would die off. We thought that, and it wasn't enough.
And we didn't know what we didn't know. Yeah. So it made sense to do the lockdown
vaccine,
at the time.
And then the vaccine was going to help us kill it off. And now, and then the variants happened. And then people said, well, that's because we're not getting vaccinated. Guys, we didn't have a vaccine. We didn't have a vaccine.
Right.
And people, I'll say this, I'm done with the vaccine stuff. People like to compare the COVID vaccine to like measles.
Yeah.
Or polio. And it's like, guys,
it's not that big of a deal.
We lived with measles for a long time, right? Until there was a vaccine. Okay. We are like 50 years, or I don't know if we're 50 years in yet from the measles vaccine.
Close, right.
Okay. So we've had decades, half a century of compulsory vaccinations for people to attend school. So the reason why you're not getting measles isn't because the vaccines are so wonderful. You're not getting measles because we essentially don't have measles in our society. It's essentially eradicated, with the exception of some immigration that brings things in from time to time. It's essentially eradicated.
Yeah, right.
Polio and measles still
exist. And they can be treated pretty quickly. And
right. It still exists in the world.
Yeah.
It's just that it doesn't exist here because the vaccines over decades have worked.
Right.
Okay, we created a COVID vaccine in the midst of the pandemic. So there's already global saturation. I mean, the virus is out there. There's just no way to go backwards. All we can do now is have continued vaccination for like decades, and eventually you might get to the point to where no one sees it.
So Fauci has already said that he's not leaving his post until the disease is in the rear view mirror.
Oh,
so who only knows what that means?
Well, and how's that guy? I mean, how did he not get fired over the dog thing?
I'm surprised. I am so surprised.
Protected, man.
He is there because if he goes down, the whole system.
He's got to have dirt on
the
on
whole.
a lot of people.
No, if he goes down, the whole Democratic Party goes down. Like less than a year from midterms already, and
do people not realize that our government does experiments on animals? Did the people not know that? I mean, it wasn't just the cosmetic industry.
The U.S. government doesn't indirectly do any more testing on animals, but it does allow for third-party testing. That's how they got away with it.
Yeah, they have other countries do it.
This is the same government, or was it the Russians? It doesn't matter. We would do it too. That sent a monkey into space to see if he freaking exploded.
Oh, we sent the dog.
Or we sent dogs.
And birds.
I mean, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like what I saw. The pictures were pretty messed up, and I didn't like what I saw. You know, I was like, but it's the government doing Like, of course, they're probably doing experiments on animals. I mean. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, to kind of transition from our first, I actually want to kind of reorder our topics for tonight because it actually just makes a lot more sense to jump into our last topic, which was going to be Australia locking down freedom. You know, because really in all of this, as we've seen, you know, what amazes me is like, you know, you've got the UN and you've got all these summits and you've got, you know, now with, again, you know, with global media, with all the technology we have, it truly seems like still these governments like don't talk to each other, you know, and somewhere like, you know, so Austria apparently has decided to create a lockdown, implement a lockdown, but only for people who are non-vaccinated. So if you are not vaccinated, you now have to basically relinquish or hope that you can work remotely or relinquish your employment. And you have to stay home while everybody who is vaccinated is able to roam free and go on about their day. Like normal. I mean, and of all things, you know, for something like this to come out of Austria, you know, as if, you know, these guys didn't learn their lesson the first time around. And so it goes back to, it's like, it's, yeah, exactly. I mean, how do they not?
What? I didn't hear it.
How do they even go there?
I don't understand.
How do they even go there?
Were they the ones that made the trains?
Weren't the Germans, didn't they come up with like a little yellow button? It's like, guys, that's not okay.
Right. Yeah.
How do you not know?
Well, and like, so
how do you even?
And the thing comes is like, by now we've seen enough countries do this lockdown thing.
Yeah.
You know, and we're seeing what happens in Australia, which, you know, obviously they're a lot closer to Australia than we are. And seeing, you know, how horrific, you know, their management of this has been. And
it seems like people want to have their cake and eat it too. And here's what I mean by that. Like if you're New Zealand, so New Zealand is an island. Okay. Yeah. Now the UK has no rabies. And they have no rabies because they quarantine every single animal before you bring it in, right? For like 14 days or whatever. And then they verify that it's not infected. And then you get your animal, your pet, right? Okay. They can do that because it's an island and they have it under control. And now they can maintain control.
Right.
Okay. I can understand how Australia, also a huge island, a continent, but you get my point. New Zealand, I understand the thought process there, except for there's one problem. You're not really locking down because you still have international flights coming in.
Yep.
You're still doing business. You still have shipping containers coming in. I don't care. If you're not 100% truly locking down, then you haven't done anything except make life miserable for the people that live there.
Well,
so they're not serious about lockdowns. And that was my whole issue with the lockdowns was, as I said many times, when Walmart shuts down, then I'll believe you.
Yeah.
And as long as you're letting Walmart stay open, I don't want to hear what you have to say,
right?
Liberal government, oppressive authoritarian, government about lockdowns.
Yeah.
Because you're not serious about it.
Well, and it's like in Fight Club where they say it's the appearance of safety.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's
exactly.
like, the safety measures on that little card in the airplane aren't there to protect you.
That's right.
They're there to just make you pass enough to get through that emergency.
The whole TSA thing is nothing but
it's all smoke and mirrors.
It's all smoke and mirrors. I was going to make
the wing fell off. We're all going to die.
I was going to make a derogatory comment about when was the last time someone went into a Walmart, but I'm not going to do
Bro,
that.
don't do my people like that.
I was going to say,
we got into this last time. You started making fun of.
I was going to say that says a lot more about you than it does about anybody here.
First of all, I don't go shopping to begin with, so I can't.
There you go. Strike one.
And Lauren gets everything shipped to the house now.
Strike two.
Just be careful about the Sefner Walmart. That's the only one.
Please tell me a little bit more about how elitist you are.
Yeah, I know. What's wrong with Walmart, Anibal? You don't want those everyday low prices? You don't want those everyday low prices?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, it's all coming from China anyway.
What I will say is this, is that Europe, who you would have thought would have been the most prepared for something like this to shut things down and everything else, are now going. Germany almost has 100,000 deaths on their books. A country that's not that big comparative to the rest of the United States, but Europe is being demolished by COVID, and the way that they're handling it is horrible. Whereas other Asian countries had a spike and they've kind of worked themselves out of it. China,
I'm going back to
Japan,
the topic that
Korea.
I know nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to address it, and I understand. Listen, in America, we live a very nice life. We're a very sedentary society, unfortunately. The bottom line is, you look at the countries that fared well with this, and maybe it's because you just can't get the data, but I mean, Japan, Korea, everybody talked about those countries as if, they're mask compliant, they're lockdown compliant. Guys, no, they're healthier than we are.
Yeah,
let's just be honest.
Longer life expectancy.
They have longer life expectancy because
they're stuck on an island, guys. Let's all calm down with that part of it. The reason why
there's probably an element of that, but
the reason why they've been able to handle weather this a little bit longer better is because they're used to pandemics.
Yeah, but China's
flaring up.
China's not. India. These some of the people.
India's getting wrecked by this thing.
How many billion
wrecked by this?
Okay, they have what, like 1 billion people? India's got like 1 billion or more.
So
people?
What are you saying? Just because they have more people, they can lose more?
No, what I'm saying is that what we know in the United States is that 78% of people that are hospitalized or die from COVID are either obese or overweight.
Right.
That's the bottom line, guys. Yeah. That's the bottom line. If this country, so all these people that are about mandates, okay, they're not really about mandates, like I already said. They're about mandates for the things they agree with. Because if we really cared about healthcare costs, and that's what they try to make it sound like you're to care for your fellow man, you have to believe in mandates. No. I mean, hey, you know what the military does to make sure that you have good health care, that you're in shape? They mandate your ass to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and you're out there in formation at 6 a.m. and you run 3 miles a day. And on Friday for fun day, we're going to run 5 miles. I mean, if you really care about people being healthy, we can start mandating broccoli. I mean,
Also, the numbers are coming out of these countries. I don't believe. China still says it only lost 5,000 people.
No, you can't trust
in COVID-19.
Well, obviously we don't believe China, but
India, there's no way India is tracking the numbers of people that are actually dying.
Yeah.
India right now is at 500,000 people have died because of COVID.
Maybe not.
Well, the other thing with China is that, I mean, if everybody in your street's getting robbed and there's that one house that's never gotten robbed, might be time to look into that one house that's not gotten robbed.
Right, right,
so
exactly.
China is that house in this situation.
Exactly.
Also, in the United States, you cough, you're automatically on a COVID list. You get hit by a bus, you died from COVID.
Well, it's true with the kids.
Our numbers are definitely inflated.
A kid can't show up to school with the sniffles. They send them home for COVID precaution. And everybody that's been around that person, which we've lost our minds to. Hey, one other thing I want to mention about the COVID numbers since you brought it up. Did you see where was it the FDA that recalled that home testing kit because they encountered 2 million false positives?
Oh, wow. Wow.
The FDA recalled a COVID home testing kit, estimating 2 million false positives.
Wow. Well, maybe that's the one they used on The View. No, look, and
she lost her job.
It's funny,
What's
but it's not
exciting to
funny.
me.
The woman that was in charge of
the
health,
nurse,
blah blah blah, lost her job.
Oh.
Well, what's exciting to me is to see all these other countries out there truly, again, exercising their First Amendment rights, protesting, their governments over these vaccine mandates, over these lockdowns, over the, it's kind of disheartening. And obviously, we've got so many other issues that everybody gets all worked up about. But I'm surprised that we haven't reached that. And I guess it's because of the variety of levels to which, each state is or isn't, inconveniencing their people, and the ways that there are different measures. Obviously, the Florida, for instance, wouldn't be highly represented in a protest because we're good here. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But again, you look at Italy, you look at
Paris over the weekend.
Right. You look at France. I mean, these countries are completely revolting. Yeah.
Are they? Oh,
against their governments.
The French are burning cars.
But yet the government is still going to push.
Well, because they're wanting to do stuff like what Austria is doing. Yep. And so, being on Twitter, which is where I heard first about this Austria lockdown, somebody's like, oh, why do we even care? That's not our country. Let's mind our own business. And I go, no, you don't understand. The problem is that it starts in Austria, and then it moves in through, Western Europe, and then it moves into the United States. Because again, all these authoritarians really, because I mean, that's what they want is the power. They all think alike, and they're like, oh well, if these guys are doing it, well then maybe we should try that. And it's only a matter of time before Biden comes out and they're going to try to segregate the vaccinated with the non-vaccinated. We're already seeing it happen at the local level.
Austria doesn't even have 1 million cases in their country. They're at 11,000 deaths, and they've gone to the extreme when it comes to shutdown.
But we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen in states and cities where they're already trying to segregate the vaccinated and the non-vaccinated.
And so in your cultured and advanced countries like in the West, you're seeing segregation based on this. In some of your worst countries like China, which is one of the worst countries in the world, actually, for human rights abuses. I mean, they have concentration camps.
Yeah.
And based on your religion.
But yet you go to Walmart and buy all the stuff still.
Which is why we shouldn't do business with China. Yeah. And I've said that. I'll say it publicly. We shouldn't. The people in Europe, and a lot of times this is the left, but the people in Europe and the United States that say never again, and yet the whole world acts like China doesn't have possibly 1 million people in concentration camps in the north of their country. Mm-hmm. And why? I mean, we fought a war. We fought a war. Well, we didn't quite fight the war in the concentration camps, but we said once we discovered the atrocities, we said never again.
But it shows you that
the UN doing nothing.
Right. But it shows you that the dollar, and this is where the anti-capitalists, like to get their talking points on this kind of an issue, because it shows you that the almighty dollar is more powerful than any political issue you can throw at it. And the worst part is that it's the liberals who also tend to be anti-capitalists who are the worst abusers of taking advantage of and wanting these relationships with countries like China. And basically protecting them and covering for them, looking at you, the NBA.
They look up to their leaders. They look up to people like Mao. I mean, how do you even celebrate somebody that's a mass murderer?
Right.
I don't know how it became cool. It's really weird, right? Like fascism and socialism really are not that far apart
it's not
ideologically.
I don't think it's that. I think it's the money. I think it's the dollar.
But I'm just saying it's odd how these communist leaders are viewed as like social. It's like they're.
I don't think it's so much more. I don't think
Che, Mao. It's like what the hell's wrong with you people? These are murderers.
Yeah, but I don't think it's so much now about the political side. I think it's about the economic side.
Oh, you're just saying how the left is they act like they're anti-capitalist, but they do some of the worst things, like Apple partnering with China. Or
well,
Nike
look at this.
partnering
You know,
with
there's famously there's this microchip company, you know, that went ahead and they basically partnered with, you know, the Chinese state government, because you have to go into the Chinese market.
Right.
And then the Chinese market basically said, "Oh, that's really great technology you have there. We're basically going to throw out everybody." They somehow got a controlling majority of the company.
Yeah.
Threw out everybody from the American side of the company.
Yep.
And completely took all the IP. All the intellectual property.
For you to be a company in China, it has to be 50%, 51% owned by the state.
Right.
Every company in China.
You have to assume
owned.
that the Chinese are going to steal from you and steal your IP and everything else.
So, but all right. So again, thank you to everybody for watching the Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Anibal, do you want to update us on comments? Anybody hanging out tonight?
So Hector has been doing a great job in the comment section talking about Austria. Remember that Austria is in Europe, total different culture and political realities when it comes to there.
Yeah.
Austria, although it is a constitutional and federal republic, nevertheless, it is a very strong central government. He just went off on Austria pretty much the whole time over. Also telling us that we were backwards. Russia sent the dog, we sent the monkey into space.
Russia sent the dog, we sent the
dog,
monkey.
we sent the monkey.
Okay. I think the dog was Lyco. I had that in a trivia question last week.
Really?
Yeah.
You still do a trivia?
Huh?
You still do a trivia?
Yeah. Do it every Tuesday night.
That's why.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you again for watching the Yard Sign. Don't forget you can listen to the Yard Sign on any of the digital podcast platforms controlled by our tech overlords over at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. So anywhere you want to listen to us, you can find us there. We got last week's episode up already, so we're all caught up on our episodes so far for this month. Let's go ahead and jump into our second topic. Our third topic, because we knocked out 1 and 4. So Bannon versus Congress. Steve Bannon, former Trump advisor, who intentionally ignored the subpoenas by Congress, has turned himself into the federal government.
Is that what he was arrested for?
Yeah. Well, he turned himself in.
Oh, okay. But is that what he's charged with? Is just contempt of Congress?
Contempt of Congress, right.
Well, okay. So, yeah.
Not only for his personal appearance, but also for documents that were requested from him.
He's no dummy. So he's got to be doing that for a reason.
Yeah, and they've already released him. You know, no bail.
Right. I wonder what the reason is for. Oh, he was just going to I'm going to take the charge. He was
I think he's going to fight it, you know,
I'm just going to take the charge.
And I think a lot of this is also, I think what's amazing to me is how it's pulling back the curtain on really how little power Congress really has in
maybe
this kind
he's
of
doing it for that reason. That's what I'm saying.
Well, he's doing it because he says that what they're asking for is already under, I think it's like president privilege of some kind that he can't talk about.
He could be trying to make a case. You got to be the victim. You know, you got to get charged with it or be the victim to fight. So he may be trying to make a case.
I wouldn't doubt that either. But the legal argument that he's using is that what he's being asked to do is within the privilege of the president, and unless they want to pierce that particular shield, then there's no reason to go. And so he went. Eventually, he did show up. He's not going to show up because if he shows up and he provides the documentation that they're requesting, that he would have to pierce the veil of privilege.
And they don't want to really do that themselves, right?
No, because then you open it. Because then you open it to everyone, every president that's alive.
Right, exactly.
It's
that's one of those issues. That's one of those issues that the American people. Not only do they not understand it, but I think they always view it as kind of stupid, right? It's like it's like this whole deal with like presidential papers, like what is private, and what's not. Like I mean, I'm kind of the on one hand, you want people to be able to like negotiate and have conversations that aren't always in the public eye, but at the same time, it's like, hey man, you're a public official.
But the president has to be able.
The president
has to be able to have people around him that are not going to sugarcoat everything. Because if if
everything's public,
then no one's going to tell you the truth,
right? Because they're fearful of their own, the way they're being viewed themselves. And when the president is meeting with world leaders aren't going to tell you something if they believe that their words are going to be made public.
Which is what happened with the Trump administration. Every time you met with someone, it was leaked.
It got leaked out,
single time.
Constantly.
And again, you can't run a presidency like that.
Well, in political circles, he didn't have any loyalty. No. He didn't have enough people surrounding him to protect him politically, because he was
ironic.
Because he was not of the political class.
There were not enough people in there.
It's so ironic. People think that Trump was like this guy who would basically command loyalty and demand it, when in reality, he made a crucial error politically, although I understand it because he's a businessman. He thought that the way to do well is to have the best people for the job. And in politics, that doesn't necessarily work out. He needed loyalty, and he didn't have loyalty, and he had people subverting him throughout the entire government.
This is why you see people, for instance, and I'll kind of be as vague as possible here, but I'm sure people can connect the dots. But for example, we have a senator in Congress whose state director has been with him since he was in the state house. You know what I mean? And there's and now obviously the majority of his initial crew has kind of moved on to other opportunities and other things.
Right.
You know, but he keeps a very tight and consistent circle around him.
Because you have to.
Yeah. And politically, anybody that has had any longevity in politics, you know, will have a tight circle of people that they can trust around them like that.
You have to.
And that goes around almost besides just politics, when it comes to business, when it comes to entertainment, even sports. Those individuals that actually do really good in sports have a really small circle. Right. That circle protects them like there's no there's no tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And the moment you start seeing someone fall apart is because their circle has been pierced, or they have no one around them to trust them. So in politics, that's the situation. Again, the Trump administration probably would have looked so differently if he was actually allowed to govern the way other presidents have. I actually don't have
a problem with spouses involved. I actually don't have a problem with spouses being involved in politics, or even though the Democrats, they were constantly on Trump about Jared and
the kids,
Ivanka, right? But they completely forget about what JFK did. I mean, the dude made his brother the attorney general.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Like, would that even fly nowadays?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't get more nepotism than that. Sure. I mean, dude, you made your brother the attorney general. Come on now.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you think about it, in politics, I mean, it's kind of it's like why people go into a family business together, because no one cares about your business as much as your spouse.
Well, this is what was fascinating to me, you know, in this regard, and we've kind of gone slightly off topic, but you know, with the Bush administration, and if you looked at, you know, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, you know, and even going down even some
all
layers,
the same clique.
These were people that have been
from way back
at the top levels of government,
and they worked for
decades.
And they worked for W's daddy, and they worked for W's daddy, so he trusted him.
And I think Ford, even Gerald Ford, I think Rumsfeld
worked for Ford,
right? You know, and it's amazing, you know, because again, I think in many cases, actually, the longevity is actually being behind the scenes, not being, you know, not being the guy on the, on the front side. But the fact that, again, you know, when we look back, especially over the last, you know, maybe 30 years, there's actually been, I'd say maybe up until Obama was elected, a very small group of people that truly controlled the government for the better part of the last 30, 40 years.
Well, remember, it wasn't supposed to be Obama. It was supposed to be Hillary.
That's right.
And that circle was going to move into,
because you had Carville, you had, you know, on the left, you had Axel. Well, Axelrod was an Obama guy, you know, but the left has their crew.
But he came from him from Chicago.
Yeah.
So the Obamas were able to bring up their own group. And again, everyone does this. We all know this. Every 2 to 4 years, the entire DC population changes completely.
No, because the thing is that what most people understand is that the people that work on your campaign, and this is where we can actually get into some of the things we do know about, is that the people that work on your campaign, the people that help you get elected, aren't the people that help you once you're in office. No, you know, those people don't know how to be that legislative aid. They don't know in most cases. In most cases.
Sometimes they slide over. To
you have exceptions. Like for example, you know, the the governor's policy director, Chris Spencer. Chris Spencer worked both sides very well. He was great on the campaign side, great on, and this is prior to Ron DeSantis, being governor.
But I'll say this, as for a large campaign, let's say statewide, out of 100 people, you might transition 20, maybe 10.
That's a lot.
At most,
I would say 10 is
it's the number.
10's maybe on the top end.
And that's for like a statewide race of some kind. So probably Senate or even governorship.
Yeah.
So again, those skills are not translatable. So when we have a huge turn in the midterms or a new president, a new party going into power, Washington, D.C. basically, the swamp really does get removed a little bit.
Well, but
then you get the swamp from all the other states that are moving back in. So it's an
the idea of a professional. See, it's interesting, right? There's again, why I said earlier about there being no perfect answers. A lot of times, just trade-offs. The professional civil service that we have today, when you think about it, all the people that are in state government, the people that work at these agencies, that's not the way it used to be, right? When a new president came in or a new governor, whatever, they used to bring in all of their political people. And if you got a job because you were connected to the person that got elected.
Sure.
And we kind of looked at that as a society and thought that was kind of backwards thinking, old school, maybe old Europe, we need to be more professional. Let's get the politics out of it. Let's have professional personnel that are in the government. And I can understand the argument for that.
The argument can make sense.
Yeah. But now we're about 150 years outside of that. I mean, this really started beginning after Lincoln, after the Civil War, you started seeing because remember, to become an army officer or a military officer in the Civil War, literally you could just be who your dad was. And the president would just make you an officer. So you didn't, that's the way a lot of government positions used to be filled. It was all political patronage, who you knew and things like that. And we thought as a country that getting away from that would benefit us. Here we are 150 years later. And if you really think about it, we've got these government bureaucrats that are entrenched and they believe that they're untouchable.
Yeah.
And so actually the only people that are in government that have any accountability are the people that are elected officials that we elect.
Right.
But no one else in government is accountable to us, and they treat us that way. They treat us like we can't do anything about them. We can't fire them. And I think we've actually kind of gone too far in that regard, and more positions need to be rotated in and out as these politicians are rotated in and out.
Well, that's
our choice.
And now you see it when it comes to the Virginia election. Any suburbs around the Washington, D.C. area are strictly blue. And the reason because of that, because those are government workers.
They work for government.
They want to make sure their jobs are protected.
That's all they want.
And that's the problem. Your incentive to work there is not for the good of the country. It's for the fact that you get a job. And that's a big problem.
Keep the money flowing.
We see that in government jobs here in the state. We see that in school system. We see that people just want the job to get the job. Why is it so difficult to fire some teachers? Why? Honestly, why is it that difficult?
When the economy tanked back in 2008, when the economy tanked in 7 and 8, and I remember Hillsborough County had to make a bunch of cuts, and I remember them talking about all the people that they let go. I think they let go of about 10% of their workforce at the county level of the government. And people viewed that as they viewed it like they had done this amazing thing to balance their budget. I'm like, guys, this is actually a good thing. And let me tell you, not just because I believe in small government, but if you were able to fire those people and continue operating and essentially not really notice the loss, then that right there, you trim to the fat. And secondly, we have a stronger economy when more people are in the civilian sector working than we do when they're in government. Those people now that if they didn't go back to government, they're probably all back now, but if they didn't go back, they ended up using what skill sets they have in the private sector, which was probably beneficial to their organizations and their peers, their employees, the market, and themselves.
Yeah.
You don't have to work for government.
Well, and it kind of touches on the fact that, we've seen now over the past, I don't know, let's say Obama got elected at 2008. So let's say over the past 20 years, we've seen the decline of the FBI, which touches on our final topic, but we've seen it now to the fact where it's basically being weaponized. It's being used as a political tool.
And it's obvious now, right?
It's
How
they're
long
not
has this
even
been
doesn't
going
even
on?
seem like they're trying to hide it.
No, they're not trying to hide it.
But for the longest time, it was this like people were like, okay, CNN. The
Communist
CSI
News Network.
CIA.
My goodness.
Wow.
The CIA, everyone was like a little shady. Yes, we know they're doing really shady things.
Like their job is to be a little shady,
their
but
job
overseas.
Right.
But overseas.
Even though we all know they're still working here.
Sure.
Well, like in the NSA too.
Yes.
Like people were shocked to learn because by statute, the NSA is not allowed
to listen
in on Americans.
Right.
But now they're getting around that Patriot Act. You gotta pin that on Bush.
Yeah.
Put that on W.
Yeah.
But there now it's like, if a foreigner calls in and speaks to Anibal, now they can tap Anibal.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hold on a second now. That's a workaround.
Yeah. Well, really quick, just to go back to closing our topic on Bannon versus Congress. Okay.
Yeah. He submitted his passport, so he's not going to leave the country anytime soon. And the first set of trials will happen on November 30th.
Well, the thing is also at this point, we've seen that January 6th is not what they portrayed it to be. It's not what the media blew it up to be. Nobody has been charged with
incitement.
And not only incitement, basically trying to overthrow the government. What I mean? It's all been like very small, like
trespassing, endangerment, things like that.
Like ridiculous things.
We all agreed was, again, if you got into the chambers, if you're in the building, you're not supposed to, throw the book at them.
What's crazy is this
even
is
though
obviously
they open the door.
This is right, exactly. And you see the video.
You
see the video. The Capitol Police just standing there, letting everybody in.
They let them in.
And still, though, all this is really, it's
and a bunch of people got charged with trespassing that never even went in the building.
Right. Well, but again, this is the Democrats obsessed with Trump and trying to pin this on him somehow.
You know who actually got charged?
And
people that weren't wearing masks.
Really?
No. Think about it. Think about it. What is Antifa? Hey, you got to give credit to Antifa for what they know to do, which is they wear all black. They all look the same.
Yep.
They cover themselves up, head to toe. They're completely covered, so they don't get prosecuted because people are like, And at some point in time, government employees,
no fingerprints, no DNA.
They're white. They're white men in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah, at some point in time, you can count on the government bureaucrat to give up. Like they're not going to work that hard. These. You got these 65-year-old men who are veterans, going to the Capitol thinking, hey, I'm going to the Capitol. I'm going to protest or whatever, not thinking that they're about to become felons.
Yeah.
And they're wearing, red, white, and blue and Trump shirt or whatever. Look, if I was at DC, they're not wearing a mask and they're not all Antifa'd up.
If I was at DC,
allegedly, if you were not in DC.
No. I'm saying if I had been in DC,
allegedly,
and I had been right.
Yeah, allegedly.
And I'd been at that rally, and all of a sudden I hear, oh, hey, the doors to the Capitol are open.
Yeah,
I'm going in.
Yeah, it's the Capitol building. If they say they're letting us in, I don't know.
I would look like a Torres, like straight up. Like,
but that's how all those people were.
Videos are horrible.
I would hope that when things got crazy, assuming I was on that side of the building, because apparently it was different from one side to the other.
Yeah.
I would hope that if I was there, I'd be like, hey, shit's getting out of hand. I got kids at the house. Like, let me, I'm not going, I don't want to be a part of that.
But there was a part of the building that looked like maybe the worst walking tour ever.
Yeah.
People taking pictures,
you've got like these little old ladies, like, looking around.
Yeah, but those are the ones that are not getting prosecuted. The ones that are getting prosecuted are the ones that broke into the chambers and then tried to lock the chambers down or try to break into the chambers.
Dude, they've prosecuted.
I'm telling you right now.
You think about
some of them.
The girl that got shot, that group of people that are trying to break into the second chambers, they all got prosecuted.
They have prosecuted people that were just there. That didn't
just walked in the building. Right. Just happened to be in the building.
That were there
because they weren't wearing masks, and the cameras got recognized them.
That's all they did. Which if you don't realize that the government has facial recognition by now,
Sure.
Probably software made from
Everybody
China.
didn't get ratted out.
I mean,
Everybody,
hello,
they
if
try to-
Facebook has facial recognition.
Yeah,
and let's remember,
phone,
it's getting better. The
Facebook
phone,
and Google have amazing. No, let's remember, Facebook and Google rolled out facial recognition, and it was so good, in fact, that it started to creep people out, and they had to roll it back.
secession or treason. No one has been charged for secession
and treason.
Thank you, Hector.
All right. So, so basically, I think
only because they can't.
Yeah,
the media calls you that so that they can then get you on a trespassing charge.
The way the media talks about January 6th makes it sound like there was legitimately a war, because that's what they're looking for. They're trying to get Bannon and some of the other ones to say like there was a war room in some hotel that they were planning, and odds are none of that was happening.
Guys, if somebody came to my office,
why are you pointing at me?
and I'm pointing towards the front door.
The lights.
Pointing towards the front door.
Towards the
If
lights.
somebody came to my office or to your house and you called the police and said, I don't want this person here, first of all, they wouldn't show up. Okay, the cops wouldn't show up.
In my neighborhood,
but
they would.
if they showed up, they would say, hey, Mr. Cabrera or Mr. Torres or Mr. Wicker, he doesn't want you here, so you need to leave. And if the guy gave them any lip, the guy could be a woman, they gave him any lip, the cop would say, okay, listen, I'm just telling you, if you come back, I've trespassed you. So now if you come back and they call me, I have to arrest you. So this is stupid. Don't make me come back out here, right? Yeah. That's how trespassing goes down.
Sure.
Okay. They're arresting and charging all those people with trespassing right off the rip.
Yep.
Period.
And I bet you a lot of it's not going to hold.
I don't know what neighborhood Joe lives. Actually, I do know what neighborhood Joe lives in. And those cops will be in my house immediately.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, and so again, point being is that I think this goes nowhere. I think it's all political fodder. It's all footage for campaign videos and stuff like that.
It makes them look so
and
much
basically all this stuff is going to resurface when Trump runs in 24.
So somebody just sent me a comment saying like, just by showing your face, the police have no choice but to prosecute. The police might be under orders to arrest people that are there.
They don't prosecute.
But you don't have to be prosecuted.
No. And that's the thing. This is the irony of it all, is that liberals and progressives, especially the ones who really hate Trump, are all wondering why Merrick Garland hasn't been more aggressive against these people. And I think it's because they realize they don't really have much. They don't have anything to really put on these people.
And I wish they would all fight it, but I understand that.
That's the thing. Remember that Democrats are controlling the Attorney General's office right now, and they still can't get anything on these people.
America hasn't gotten to this point, but what the feds do is if they put a charge like on those people, and you're thinking of like, well, I'm innocent, so I'm going to fight it. Yeah. They're just going to destroy you financially. And they know that they have a 95% conviction rate, and they can go forever, and you can't afford to go forever. But here's what I would say though. If the government keeps that up, all it takes is for the population to get to a place to where they don't care.
Yeah.
And then all the power and all the authority they have, or they think they have, actually gets exposed. Because what you were saying earlier about, I forget who it was you said didn't have as much authority as people think, but
Merrick Garland.
Okay, Merrick Garland. But see, a lot of the federal government's authority is really based on our perception that they have authority.
Sure.
So, for instance, if the government comes to me and says, well, we're going to charge you with this crime, and in order for you to defeat it, you're going to spend all your money. Okay, but here's the thing, though. Now, maybe I'm just this type of guy, but here's the thing, though. I used to live in a shelter half on behalf of the U.S. government in the woods. So I've been poor before. So if you want to, and you want to come after me hard enough, once you take away everything I've got, and I'm back to Anibal growing corn and putting away a cannon, and I'm back to canning for wintertime.
Triggered.
Hey, at that point, now that you got nothing. Now you got nothing, because if somebody's willing to be broke and knows how to be broke.
Yeah.
At that point, okay, put me up in jail 3 meals a day. Give me my Bible and give me my 3 meals a day. And I want my free healthcare. Let's go. Let's roll. Like, you can't break somebody.
We can play this game.
Yeah, we can play this game. You can't break certain people.
Have you seen
and
North Florida?
And
people can play that game.
There's a reason why. How many times you've been to DC? You can't get rid of homeless people. You can't trespass them enough.
Yeah.
You're telling me that you're charging all of those people for trespassing when DC is full of people trespassing, and you can't get them off the street, but you're going to trespass all these people and charge them all. The only reason why they're able to do that is because the people that they're charging have lives and have jobs or have families, and they just don't want to destroy that. So they're willing to catch a case and plead it out for $1,000 and an admission of guilt, so the government can say we were right and you were wrong. If all those people were willing to go to court, the government would give up.
The thing is, though, you're seeing this now in the general population, that people are just pissed and people are annoyed, and people are really starting to see what individual decisions in the federal government is now trickling down and making their lives a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive. So was it the CNN and CNBC did a general ballot, Republican Democrat down ticket, and Republicans are at 53% a likelihood to take back. Like, that's the percentage of people willing to vote for Republicans, whereas with Democrats, I think it's like 42 or 43% are willing to just vote ticket down Democrats. So
the government is scared of the people, as they should be.
Democrats are
and
so
the Democrats
scared
are.
that it's not going to be like a normal transition and midterms, or it's going to be a blowout. It's going to look like a bloodbath if the Democrats don't figure out what they can do to fix what they're doing now, because it's not working. They're thinking of shutting down another pipeline in Michigan because the governor there and Biden wants to get rid of that. They don't want to fix what's happening with cargo ships. The reason why there's not enough truckers in California is because the majority of truckers around the country are 1099 and independent contractors. And in California, they got rid of that designation because they wanted everyone to be in a union. And so now it's almost impossible for someone that's a 1099 gig worker or independent contractor to get a job or a contract in California. So what did those truckers do? They just went somewhere else so they could work. And now you have this huge backlog. We're almost at 100 ships again waiting in the Pacific. And this is just getting ridiculous now.
I got one last thing I'm going to say to go back and then we can be done about January 6th. You have a federal government that I think was shocked by what happened. I mean, I was surprised.
I was very surprised.
I was shocked, and I think that they were shocked. And then they were even more, but then here's what really got them concerned. What got them concerned is then they realized how many combat vets were there. Mm-hmm. And they know what I'm getting ready to say, which is that if you're threatening a combat vet with 3 hots and a cot and medical care, these are the same people that you previously provided 0 hots, no cot, sandstorms, sand fleas, a bottle of water a day, and a bad back.
And burn pits.
And burn pits, burning their own crap with diesel fuel, with JP8, stirring it up in a 55-gallon bucket, cut in half. That's what we used to poop and pee in. And you're trying to threaten those guys with 3 hots and a cot, free health care in an air-conditioned facility where you're gonna get 3 baths a week.
Yeah.
Bro.
You have no idea. What this country is capable of.
Be careful
south of the Mason-Dixon
line. Be careful who you're threatening. Be careful who you're threatening and what the threat is, because once a person's bank account goes to 0, we don't have debtors prisons in this country.
That's right.
So now you got to provide lawyers. Now you got to provide housing. Do you realize there are some people that are on the streets? You send them to prison, it's an upgrade. Do you realize that the government handouts are getting so bad? I say bad. It's getting so good. There's so much that people can get that it's going to get to the point to where the government can't break a person because the government ends up just taking care of them.
Right. And they want to do more.
And that's
practically
what they're doing.
Give more.
Now that's what a lot of these prisons
are.
Okay, you drain my 401k. Now the government's on the hook.
Yeah, right.
Now it's SNAP, it's TANF, it's housing, it's Section 8, it's kid care, Medicaid, free this, free that, unemployment, more unemployment, and everything else in the between. Oh, and now I qualify for federal student aid. I don't even have to pay student loans.
And Democrats,
none of
that doesn't
money.
buy loyalty.
Right.
None of that buys loyalty. They're thinking that if they pass another $1 trillion deal, $4 trillion deal, that they're going to buy an election. If we give the population stuff for free,
No, it makes you bitter.
Yeah,
actually.
it makes it worse. It makes it even worse.
Eventually, the novelty runs off, and I think that's what's happening to Democrats across the country.
It's going to keep on happening
because it used to be that Democrats could threaten people with saying that Republicans were going to take away their free
Social
goodies.
Security,
Yeah, exactly. And
now Republicans are giving you free goodies too.
Well, that's.
I mean. They're all signing
up.
The
fiscal ideal of a fiscal Republican is almost impossible.
No, I mean, come on. No, I mean, come on. Look, how much money's been spent the last few years. Let's give it up. Come on now.
Few years.
The jig is up. The jig is up. When hard times come, everybody's voting for Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be.
Whoever's in power, willing to give them a check, it's going to happen.
No one's taking anything away. So.
Well, let's go ahead because we've already kind of touched on the last topic, which was FBI attacking journalism. FBI has raided Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. Obviously, someone who very controversial, but it's what they call guerrilla journalism, and he has actually broken a lot of stories. And while the media elite continue to discard him and disrespect him as some type of just rabble rouser, I guess, for lack of a better term. He has had a lot of lawsuits, over the type of content that he has been able to create, and a lot of the stories that he's been able to break, where these media elite have also had to issue corrections based on them discrediting him. And he wins in court repeatedly and continues to do a great job of exposing all kinds of issues, whether it be in Silicon Valley, whether it be in our government, even within our own party.
He
even exposed, some voter fraud happening within a Republican candidate's campaign.
If you are in government or politics and you are of average attractiveness or below, and someone's like really chatting you up and you're like, man, I can't believe this person is so like awesome. You need to be careful because you might be the victim of James of a Project Veritas honeypot.
That's right.
That's a honeypot that you are about to fall into.
Well, and that's the thing. I think the pressure's gotten, he's lately been able to hit so hard against
these people are giving up. They're spilling the beans. They spill the beans.
And I think again, we got to remember who's in charge. So when you've got Silicon Valley and the liberals in charge, they're all of a sudden looking and saying, this guy's making us look bad. He's infiltrating our organizations. He's making us fire some of our top people. And we need to do something about it. Again, what business does the FBI have in raiding Project Veritas?
He's a reporter, whether you like it or not.
You might not like his tactics. I don't like some of his suggestive editing that he has done on some of the projects.
But even that, he stopped doing that a long time ago.
But it's not a clean record. Let's be completely honest.
He'll release the entire, but he released
after. He stopped doing that
because he got caught.
Here's what gets me. Hold on. Here's what gets me. Planned Parenthood tried to say that it was somehow, whatever you want, whatever you just called it, like manipulative editing. And it's like, dude, you're on camera saying that you sell body parts.
Right.
Like, how the hell is that? Like, I don't care how much of background noise you edited out.
That's not
you're
what he's
on
editing.
camera saying that you are selling aborted babies.
Do I think
they literally, there's like a menu that people are ordering from you.
I think that
it doesn't matter how much he edited out of that.
He has been caught doing some suggestive editing. Again, at the end of the day, this is how crazy it's getting.
Look, everybody,
the ACLU has already warned that this is a breach, and this is going to build a precedence that you do not want to cross the FBI, and it has serious.
Because it starts with Project Veritas,
consequences,
and then it moves on to other media outlets, and then before you know it, it's the New York Times and CNN.
The Obama administration was doing it with Fox News.
Can you imagine what would happen if the Trump DOJ, the FBI under Trump's DOJ, can you imagine what the left would have said? If not even like a big time reporter, no. Anybody that's a leftist reporter that's known to submit information.
Well, didn't Obama have like a list of journalists?
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, they had like a blacklist.
Yeah, they had a blacklist of journalists.
And what the White House already does, which I think this is problematic, but I know they can't let everybody in the room. But what the White House already does is they have like the token conservative media person that's allowed to be in there, and so they allow Fox News to have like their one guy, and he gets to ask like one question every so often because they have
legacy media in there as well.
Yeah, because they feel like, well, to give the appearance that we're allowing, public access to the president, we're going to have the one guy, like the one conservative guy that's allowed to ask the question.
Yeah, and I think was it OAN had somebody.
Do they?
Yeah, they have
yeah. I mean, but
so you have two, and then the rest of the room is full of
And I've been there.
The room is not.
No,
big.
I know.
And their desks are even tinier.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm sorry. We have social distancing now, so it's probably harmed.
It's even worse now.
But they pack a lot. They pack like 20. At least there's like 20 reporters. in that room.
But do you know how many media outlets
packing them in there?
It's absolutely
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
All you gotta do is let in U.S. media. You don't have to let everybody in.
This is an ultra liberal, or administration going after its opponents.
Correct.
Yeah,
this is the weaponizing
political targeting
of the FBI.
And this is what America. This is part of why America was founded.
Yeah,
to not do shit like this.
Yeah.
I mean, in Europe, if you spoke publicly against the king or the queen, they chopped your head off. Oh, yeah. That still happens.
Some parts of Asia,
that still happens in the Middle East or in Asia.
Right. And
we created this country to stand against that.
Yeah.
And now we've got people raiding your home. And here's the real to add insult to injury. When they went after Roger Stone, they didn't just arrest Roger Stone and on some whatever bullshit they came up with. They didn't just do that because he was a Trump associate. Oh, no. What they did was they let CNN know that they were going to be arresting Roger Stone because you got to have good video, right?
Yep.
You got to have the video so that we can put it on the news tomorrow morning. So they notify the media that they're going to arrest him. And we're talking about Roger Stone. Like everybody know, like where he lives isn't a secret. Right. He's not trying to go anywhere. The guy looks like somebody you can't miss. I mean, it's not like he just blends in. He's of no flight risk. The charges are bullshit anyway, so it's not like it's some kind of murder charge where the guy has a reason to flee. And they show up with like MRAPs and SWAT teams. It's like, what do you think you're arresting somebody's grandfather with a SWAT team, and you got
helicopters out in the air. It's ridiculous.
You literally, all you have to do is call them and be like, hey, listen, are you turning yourself in today or not? Okay, well, I mean, did you need us to send a car or no? Okay. All right, cool. Talk to you later. Well, that's all that had to be done, but that's not good for TV.
The same thing happened in this situation. So someone had already leaked out from the FBI that this was happening because I think it was the New York Times was the one that got the scoop and got the video of this whole thing happening in that part. So again, they've already said this once. Unless
the helicopters over.
Because the way this whole thing started is because evidently Project Veritas was given the diary of the president's daughter.
Oh, right. And so James O'Keefe didn't publish it.
No. Wait.
Supposedly.
No. Because it was given to them because it was stolen, they gave it to the FBI. Right. And the FBI is under the impression, well, they must have stolen it because they had it. So
the
which is stupid. If you're going to steal something, then why are you going to turn it over to the FBI?
So they're using that. So that's the precursor for this.
The ACLU is saying this. Unless the government has good reason to believe that the Project Veritas employees were directly involved in the criminal theft of the diary, it should not have been subjected them to the invasion, search, and seizure. We urge the courts to appoint a special master, to ensure that law enforcement officers review only these materials that were lawfully seized because of this action. Because they took phones, they took laptops, they took everything.
When you're a conservative,
the scope is ridiculous.
When conservatives and the ACLU are on the same side, that's when you know the government is screwed up.
Today's ACLU.
That's when you know.
20 years ago when they were actually doing it
That's when you know the government has screwed up.
So we'll continue to follow that story and see what all the fallout is like. Again, a dangerous precedent nonetheless when it comes to, again, the right to a free press. Right there in our Constitution.
As a veteran, I do not like seeing the militarization of our police force. I don't like it. I don't like seeing cops with MRAPs, and it's like who are you fighting me? Like, are we at war? Like, is the government at war with the people? Like, what's going on here?
We've seen this happen.
Why do you have all this? It's not a hostage situation.
Ranchers in Nevada, ranchers in Texas. This gets to a point. It's happened before.
And these government and listen, I'm not anti-police. I'll tell you what I am though. I'm pro due process. I'm pro freedom. Yep. And if you're violating that, then I have an issue.
Then I have a problem.
And here's the thing: if it's a hostage situation, an armed hostage situation, then I understand why you have an armored vehicle or you've got body armor and all this stuff. But what I see,
this ain't Waco.
Well, yeah. And what I see is a government that just likes to have all this stuff and they like to put it on. It makes them feel cool.
Well, they have to justify their budget and their budget increase.
And it's like, hey, bro, you want to look like a soldier? Put your boots on, go down to the recruiting office, sign up. They'll put you, well, they would have sent you to Afghanistan. Now they won't, but you can go play soldier. Yeah. If you want to be in armored vehicles, go be a soldier. But these are cops.
Well, and again, it's a way to justify their budget and then their ever increasing budget.
And we're talking about them arresting people for stuff like
any government agencies at state, local, federal, you name it. Not only do they have to justify their budget every year, but then they're always looking to get an increase in their budget, and so they know that they have to spend that money or they're going to lose it the following year.
I like how like you don't see this. I'm not, because a lot of cops are actually for the Second Amendment, whatnot. But I like how people within government will say to a citizen, well, why do you need 30 rounds? Why do you need 30 rounds? Who are you? Well, and they'll inevitably, we're going after bad guys. Okay, well, I need to protect myself from bad guys.
Right.
Oh, right. No. The U.S. families have enough money to pay more in gas prices.
What's the problem?
Oh, no. You have enough money to pay for more milk. Oh, it's fine. No, inflation is nothing. Wow, you can handle inflation.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. But that's from government officials. Government officials always think the American people can do whatever they want and that they'll be able to weather the storm. We're Americans. We can do whatever we want.
I posted this joke today where it was a girl asking her boyfriend or fiance, husband, whoever, to take her out to an expensive place. And he's like, all right. They pulled up to the gas station. He just parked, turned the car off. And she's like, why are we at the gas station? He's like, you wanted to go to an expensive place. We're here. She's like, well, you don't even need. He's like, yeah, I don't need any gas, but you said you want to go to an expensive place. So here we are.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching Dark Side, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Joe Wicker and Anibal David Cabrera with me. Headline only. One last thing. I'm watching
Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Kyle Rittenhouse trial. There you go. Got Joe's answer in.
What do you think? What do you think the trial?
Well, I don't have freaking 15 hours a day to watch the trial, but from what I was able to
thanks, Anibal.
From what I was able to see. Dude, I mean,
he'll be on some sort of probation.
The kid was running away from people, and he was cornered, and he ended up having to kill. I mean, they grabbed his gun. They proved that. They shot that guy. Then they threw something at him. Then they beat him over the head with a skateboard, and then a guy approached him with a gun. I mean, it's like, dude, like, I mean, at what point? Like, at what point?
Have the 15 hours?
At what point if that kid wasn't defending himself? Then at what point do you get to defend yourself?
All right, don't worry, America. Kenosha, Wisconsin will be be fine.
White people killing white people.
For me, it's going to be Beto. Good old Beto jumping into Texas governor's race.
What, dude? That guy, how many times does he have to lose?
The gift that keeps on giving.
This is great. So he's running for Texas governor
again.
This is awesome because he's going to lose again.
That's right.
And then that can be it. You know what he's doing? He's setting up a PAC, and he needs a retirement plan.
He has plenty of money. He's setting up a PAC. His wife is loaded. His wife is loaded with money.
So in other words, he's going to waste our time and jump in.
Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that to the Democratic Party? Why is he doing that to his own party?
Because it's Texas,
and
he's
special.
He's like
anti-gun. The guy might as well be against trucks. He might as well come out. He might as well come out in Texas and say, "I hate trucks." I mean, he might as well come out and say something.
Texas
crazy.
is not a purple state. People need to stop
seriously.
pretending that it's a purple state. It's not a purple state.
All right,
For
Anibal,
me,
your
it's
story.
the conflict in the Baltic states.
Of course it is.
So there are sanctions being put on to Belarus because of the human trafficking issues that are occurring there. The military is starting to splinter in what's inside Kosovo. So there's probably going to be a military issue coming up in the next 6 months.
All right. All you old vets out there that went to Kosovo.
I'm sure we'll continue talking about at least two out of those three topics. On behalf of
important.
Anibal, David,
When we
Cabrera,
went to
Joe
Kosovo,
Wicker.
Bill Clinton had to show it on a map. Remember that? He was like, "Hey, America, this is Kosovo.
This is the Baltic states."
Remember that?
No one cares about that. It's a bunch of Muslims and Orthodox Christians.
In Miami, we used to have a reporter that anytime
we did protect the Muslims.
stopped the Muslims from being slaughtered.
In Miami, there was a reporter that anytime something was going down in Cuba, they had a whole studio with a map of Cuba on the floor, and he would just walk along to like make it like super dramatic. It was amazing television. But anyways, on that note, thank you again, Joe Wicker, Anibal, David Cabrera, yours truly, Jonny Torres, and don't forget to subscribe, like, follow our audio version of the podcast at the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. We'll see you back here next Monday night. Thank you so much for watching the Yard Sign. Good night, everybody.